The Mediterranean region is the world's leading tourist destination. The annual massive tourist wave towards the Mediterranean, largely concentrated with a short period, places a great burden to local infrastructure, especially for waste management. Local authorities face an often insurmountable challenge in coping with this resulting waste generation, especially during the high season. This issue has been a vexing problem for years, but it has never before been approached methodically. 14 partners from 8 countries, including 9 Mediterranean islands, have worked together the last 3.5 years and carry out activities to identify, address, and mitigate the effects of the seasonal variation of waste generated on Mediterranean islands as an effect of tourism.
Hello, I'm Michael Grove from the Autonomous University of Barcelona in Spain. During the Blue Islands project, the UIB was in charge of the good implementation of the study phase, during which we conducted different studies in order to estimate the impact of tourism on the seasonal variation of waste generation on Mediterranean islands. The study phase was divided into 3 main activities: a waste characteristics study to estimate the amount and type of waste generated by the establishment related to tourism, a marine litter survey in order to estimate the amount and type of waste found directly on the sand of the beaches, and a monitoring of the contamination of coastal waters by anthropogenic nutrients through wastewater discharges. These studies were implemented during both the low and high touristic season and on the 8 islands involved in the project: Majorca, Sicily, Rab, Malta, Crete, Mykonos, Rhodes, and Cyprus. For each island, 3 different types of sites were selected: a very touristic beach characterized by a very high volume of visitors and a high level of infrastructures dedicated to tourism, such as hotels and restaurants, right behind the beach. A beach mainly used by locals, characterized by a high volume of visitors and low level of infrastructures related to tourism, right behind the beach. And a remote beach, characterized by a low volume of visitors and no infrastructures, right behind the beach. During the waste characteristics study, an impact area was defined, including the hinterland behind the selected beaches. It was then divided into waste zones in order to include the beach, the pedestrian walkway, or the establishments related to tourism. From May to November, once a month, the amount and type of waste found in the waste bins of the different waste zones was monitored during 1 week. The results showed that during the high season, the amount of waste generated is up to 7 times higher than during the low season. The amount of municipal solid waste collected on the touristic sites is on average 2 times higher than the sites mainly used by locals. About 1/3 of the total waste is organic waste, followed by the glass, which represents about 19%, the plastic, about 17%, and the paper, 15%. By comparing these results to the amount of waste generated by the residents during the same period, we estimated that on a daily basis, a tourist would generate on average 1.85 times more waste than a resident. This value can increase up to 3.65 in some places, especially during July and August. The marine litter surveys were conducted on the 24 selected beaches once a month from February to November. For each site, all the items found on a fixed 100-meter portion of beach were collected and characterized, including the meso and microplastic. Moreover, we collected sand samples in order to estimate the abundance of the very small microplastics of less than 1 millimeter. The results showed that on average more items were collected per survey during the low season. This is only because that during the high season most of the beaches are cleaned every day. Then, by taking into account the surface monitored and the time elapsed between the survey and the last cleaning of the beach, we can estimate the accumulation rates of the marine litter, which clearly show a seasonal increase. On the touristic beaches, more than 300 items can be found per 1,000 square meter and per day during the high season. Moreover, we estimated that about 50 to 60% of the marine litter is produced directly on the beach by the visitors during the summer. As for the marine litter, the accumulation rates of the meso and microplastics show a seasonal increase. The results from the fragmentation of larger plastic items due to the temperature, the solar irradiance, and the mechanical degradation. For the small microplastic extracted from the sand, the assessment is the same with much higher concentration during the summer. Here we found up to 1,000 microplastic per kilogram of sand. About the 2/3 of these particles are fibers and about 1/4 are fragments. Finally, we monitored the contamination of the coastal waters by anthropogenic nutrients through the deployment of macroalgae in Cyprus, Sicily, and Rhodes. These algae are able to absorb the anthropogenic nutrients in the surrounding waters, and this concentration can be measured afterwards in laboratory. The macroalgae were deployed in June, August, and October and were collected after 3 days in the water. For each of the 3 islands, a very touristic site and 2 control sites, less impacted, were selected. The results showed that the short-term deployment is an effective system to detect anthropogenic nutrients in coastal waters. Moreover, although the presence of anthropogenic nutrients was recorded in the touristic sites of all islands, no dramatic concentration were recorded during this study, suggesting an efficient management of the wastewaters even during tourist peak. As a conclusion, the 3 studies implemented during the study phase of the project clearly showed that tourism has a measurable impact on the waste generated on Mediterranean islands during the ice season. In order to mitigate these issues, the results of these studies were used to feed a decision tool specifically designed for Blue Islands. This tool provides solutions at local, regional, and national levels to reduce the seasonal increase of the waste generated by tourism in Mediterranean islands. This tool was used during the testing phase of the project to implement pilot actions.
Work Package 4 is the testing phase of the Blue Islands project. It had its foundation on the results of Work Package 3, which showed an increase in marine litter and anthropogenic nutrients in beaches of Mediterranean islands during the summer tourist peak. Based on these results, Work Package 4 prepared, implemented and assessed the effectiveness of pilot actions aimed at reducing waste generated by tourism. The first step of Work Package 4 consisted in the preparation of pilot actions in spring 2019. Institutional project partners selected the pilot actions based on the outcome of the Work Package 3 and of the action plans specifically arranged for waste, marine litter and anthropogenic nutrients within Work Package 3. The second step of Work Package 4 was the implementation of the pilot actions by local partners in summer 2019 in 7 islands: Cyprus, Rhodes, Mykonos, Crete, Rab in Croatia, Sicily and Majorca. In all islands, the pilot actions included an awareness campaign to develop environmental consciousness and to change the habits of tourists. Leaflets, flyers, posters, raising environmental awareness and also advertising the activities of the Blue Islands project were distributed in beaches. Complementary gadgets such as pocket ashtrays, reusable bags, bamboo cups and straws or aluminium water bottles were also distributed to encourage a proper disposal of waste and to reduce single-use plastics. Additionally, in a few islands, the waste collection system was improved by increasing the number of waste collection points, replacing non-recyclables with recyclable bins, and also by upgrading the labeling of existing bins. The pilot actions were advertised through online portals, social media, and in a few cases also through magazines and radio. Importantly, all the pilot actions were carried out in collaboration with stakeholders, including local, regional or national authorities, the HoReCa sector and also NGOs, tourist offices and so on. The third step of Work Package 4 was the evaluation of the effectiveness of the pilot actions. Marine litter surveys and macroalgae experiments carried out in 2017 during the studying phase were repeated in summer 2019, respectively in 6 and 3 islands, to compare the conditions before and after the implementation of the pilot actions. Pilot actions were effective as both marine litter and anthropogenic nutrients decreased. There was an overall reduction by 47% in marine litter in tourist beaches. However, the intended target was not reached, as in almost all beaches, litter still accumulated at high rates. Regarding anthropogenic nutrients, 2 out of the 3 islands investigated reached the target. The third showed a remarkable improvement and values very close to the target. In the last step of Work Package 4, an overall evaluation of the action plans was carried out. Although pilot actions were effective, they were not as successful as expected. However, the results are encouraging, as the implementation of on-site concrete actions, possibly at larger spatial scales and for longer periods, with the involvement of tourists and stakeholders, may represent a unique tool for raising environmental awareness and for a strategy to deal with the issue of waste generated by tourism in Mediterranean islands, with potential beneficial effects on the environment and on tourism itself.
My name is Christina Cassian and I'm talking on behalf of the French cluster AI Eco-Enterprises. We were partner of Blue Islands project, and our main mission within it was to coordinate the Work Package 5 knowledge transfer. The Work Package 5 was about knowledge sharing, sharing best practices and capacity building. So I'm going to show you and underline in some main lines the main results and conclusion of this work package. Firstly, I would like to tell you that we tried to bring into the project our main knowledge and our main experience coming from our cluster daily life. We tried actually to build connections between the private sectors, which are SMEs and experts, and the public one, the public authorities. How did we achieve this? By proposing a suitable methodology and by starting with capacity building webinars. We organized in May 2018 4 capacity building webinars by inviting to speak experts about notions such as circular economy, integrated coastal zone management, life cycle assessment, and sustainable tourism. The idea of these webinars was to give to the audience and to the project partners general notions about these topics. The recordings are still available on the project YouTube channel for the interesting stakeholders. Another interesting deliverable, which had the same objective to contribute with capacity building and to give pedagogical way to the public authorities, was the preparation of a waste management handbook. The waste management handbook was gathering together a set of existing practical solutions to be implemented by public authorities or professionals from HoReCa sectors in order to deal with the waste management issues. The best practices were coming from the Blue Island project itself, from the Work Package 4 implementation, but also some other existing good practices from the partner regions. The best practices were targeting policy making, societal and technical aspects. The handbook is translated today in all the partner languages such as Italian, Greek, French, Croatian, Spanish and Catalan. This was of course done in order to achieve a larger audience and make stakeholders aware of what already exists and needs to be implemented for a more efficient waste management in their own territories. Another important deliverable of the Work Package 5 was the impact analysis. The idea of this deliverable was to study and to assess the costs for beach litter cleaning for the municipality, but also make a comparison between before the Blue Islands project and after. For this, a questionnaire was specifically designed and shared with the Blue Island partners. The islands such as Majorca, Sicily, Rab, Malta, Crete, Mykonos, Rhodes and Cyprus participated and fed in the questionnaire. The main conclusion of the questionnaire was that the municipalities were lacking the information about the costs. This could be explained by the fact that the beach marine litter was included in the General Waste Management Plan for municipalities. However, most of the responding municipalities, about 84%, are completely or partially involved in the beach litter cleaning. On average, the collection of the beach litter represents 28% of the total budget, while the treatment and disposal represents the remaining 72%. Finally, the analysis estimated that the cost for beach litter cleaning was of about 30,000 euros per kilometer of beach and per year in 2018, and that this represents an increase of 9.7% comparing to 2017. This might be explained probably by the fact that the proportion of recycled waste in 2018 increased comparing with 2017. As I said earlier, capacity building was an important aspect of the Work Package 5. That is why, together with the partnership, we decided that by organizing special events dedicated to knowledge sharing, experience sharing, and networking, it is very important for transferring the best results and good practices from the project. Consequently, last December in Marseille, we organized a transnational workshop which wanted to be a place of exchange between French and Mediterranean actors. The Blue Islands partners came and shared their innovative projects in the field of waste management, waste recycling, and waste treatment in insular areas. But they could also visit a village of solution and see existing French solutions implemented in France for knowledge management. So this transnational event was a suitable place to share different functioning, different efficient good practices, and to bring at our own local level what we considered interesting to be far implemented. This transnational event gathered together representatives from SMEs, from NGOs, institutions, but also waste management experts. The event was replicated also at national regional level in the partner territories by the project islands. The idea was to do the same, but in the local languages, so that a larger part of local stakeholders could be involved into the exchanges, the debates, in order to see what functioned, what worked in as good practices from the project, but also start thinking about what should be done next for improving and facing with the waste management issues. The conclusions from these transnational and regional events are gathered together into one of the last deliverables of the project, which is the next steps plan. The idea of this document is to identify the key results of the project that can be shared into the other territories. The idea is to think how the key results can impact the local, national, and EU policies, to build on the project findings and start to think about the next steps to be done after. As I said, The next step plan is fed from the regional workshops, from the exchanges with the local stakeholders. It represents a final strategic note with proposals and suggestions for efficient waste management in Mediterranean islands. It includes recommendations for policymakers, but also for businesses from HoReCa sector. If you're interested to get further information of the next step plan, you are encouraged to visit our deliverable area on the project website. To conclude, we will for sure try to think about the project continuation or on the way of how the project good results may be transferred into other territories and improved with elements which we found out that are still missing.
ECR Plus coordinated the communication and dissemination activities of the project. We developed a communication plan to define the activities and to guide the project partners in the implementation. Our main target audience were policymakers in charge of waste management in Mediterranean islands and more generally public authorities in Mediterranean territories that face great seasonal variation of population as a consequence of tourism. We developed a visual identity for the project and a set of tools that partners use throughout the project, such as leaflets, brochures, posters, banners, and other kinds of visual materials. We set up a Facebook page called Med Blueislands and a newsletter that had 6 issues and reached over 1,000 subscribers. Under our work package, the project partners organized different kinds of local events to disseminate the project, to engage their local stakeholders, and to raise awareness on the issue of waste generated by tourism. Partners also took part as speakers at external events, such as events of the Interreg Med Sustainable Tourism Community or the Blue Med Community. In total, we counted that Blueislands was disseminated in over 50 events. All the partners also contributed to publishing information about the project developments in their local media, in their languages, and this gave a great visibility to the project. In April 2018, we organized the midterm conference of the European Parliament in Brussels in cooperation with the European Parliament Intergroup on Seas, Rivers, Islands and Coastal Areas. Part of this event was dedicated to the signing of the Charter of Commitment for Material Resource Management and Circular Economy. This charter was a declaration of intention to collaborate internationally on the topic of sustainable tourism, taking into account the seasonal variation of population. The document was signed by 22 representatives of public authorities in Europe and also by 5 members of the European Parliament. Another important event of our work package was the tourist information campaign that took place in summer 2019 in all the islands involved in the project. The slogan of this campaign was "Do not leave your waste unattended," and it aimed at raising tourist awareness about the waste that is left on the beaches and to push them to have more responsible behavior, such as sorting waste. Tourists were approached directly on the beaches and also reached through big panels and posters located at strategic points such as airports or tourist information offices. To wrap up the work done throughout the project, we published some summaries of results and also some storytelling videos. The video that you are seeing now is also part of our work package and is meant to replace the final conference that unfortunately could not take place.
As presented in the past few minutes, the Blue Islands project has produced a lot of useful knowledge in terms of new innovative methods and tools to be utilized in the waste management sector of the Mediterranean coastal region, especially in relation to the touristic flows. This knowledge is open and accessible to any interested party, decision maker, or entity that is related to the relevant policies. Therefore, the produced outputs through this project, such as the online tool for decision makers, the tool for compiling action plans, the methodologies followed for the elaboration of marine litter, microplastics, anthropogenic nutrients, and waste characterization, the pilot activities, the good practices handbook, and all other interesting deliverables of the Blue Islands project may be easily transferred, adapted, adopted, and put in practice in any other region across the Mediterranean Sea and even further. The Blue Islands partners will be more than happy to cooperate and support any interested party in doing so, in order to build on the existing results and put forward more synergies to promote sustainable tourist patterns and fuel local loops of circular economy in the Med area, an area with common characteristics and specificities and potential.